Welcome back to Glass Engraving for Beginners. My name's Javier. In this tutorial, we're gonna try to create a flower vase. What we have here is a Google image that I have researched, I have brought up, I have put it on my Chromebook, or you can do your laptop or your PC, and we're gonna try to put it into this glass pot, vase, vase, whatever you want to call it. What I'm doing here now is on my computer, I am going to press Control and minus sign or Control and plus sign in order to either zoom in or zoom out the image, so that if I want it big, I can make it bigger. If I want it smaller, I can make it smaller. And the reason for doing this is to make sure that this image is going to fit into the piece of glass that we have. And you'll see why in a little bit here. That is important. So I got it smaller. Let's see, let's check right here if it's just within the glass. So let's kind of do Control minus, and then you can do this. I'm using Chrome. You can also do this in Internet Explorer. I think it's also Control minus and Control plus to zoom in, zoom out, and then Firefox, I think it's the same thing. You might have to do a little bit of research on that, but it should be about the same. Right here now, I'm going to make my screen as bright as it can go. And basically what we're doing here is the end result. The reason why I'm making it brighter is because I am going to take a piece of paper, which you see here, and I'm going to trace it. So I'm going to place the piece of paper right on top of my monitor, and I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to trace the image right from my monitor to the paper with a pencil. The reason for doing this, here I have turned the lights off and I have sped up the video so that you don't have to see me take a long time tracing. But turning the light off and the video the screen to the highest, and then tracing makes it real easy to see the lines. I'm tracing on paper. Some of you might be asking, okay, why didn't he just print it on a printer? Everybody's got printers nowadays. I like doing this because it gives me a chance to practice the lines before actually getting to the actual glass engraving part. So you see, you can kind of plan out what you're gonna do, what the actual image is doing, what could possibly come up later during the glass engraving process. This is also easy doing it right on your monitor. You can just turn the light off and on to see what you're doing. See if it's to your liking. So as you can see, it's done. There's the glass. That's how big it's gonna be. And now we're gonna go ahead and make sure that it fits inside the glass. So I've already taped it up. You can see some of those videos on my previous videos, how I tape them inside the glass. I like doing that, just taping them in there. And now I'm tracing with my fine point marker the image right onto my glass. Just a Sharpie fine point. And again, this also gives you practice as far as what the image is doing, how the lines go, where the shading is at. And this is all of this can be erased, can be redone. So you're to the point still as of now where you can mess up. You could just wash this off. You could do another image. If you pick an image and you're like, you know, I don't like it too much, I'm not liking it, then you can still at this point wash it off because you haven't done any actual engraving to the glass itself. So I like this process for me. Here I have my Dremel tool. I have put a fine point diamond burr on it. And now I'm going to go ahead and engrave the outline. All the outlines. Just as I did with the marker and as I did with the pen, I'm going to engrave the whole thing, all the outlines, the outside outlines, with this fine point diamond bit burr. You can see here just taking it nice and slow. Here soon, I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I don't want to bore you guys. And here's a sped up. But basically, the whole image, non-shaded areas, is going to be engraved with this fine point diamond bit, almost like you were doing with, just treat it as if it was the fine point Sharpie, the marker, okay? Just don't do the outlines, and you'll see once I get into the other bits why you don't really want to, I mean, don't do the shading. I think I messed up there, but don't do the shading. Just the lines. Here's the end result of that. Here I have engraved all the outlines, none of the shading. You'll see here soon. I'll take that away and show you what the outlines look like. For some of you that are beginners, maybe this is your very first project, you could stop here. I'll show you what that looks like after I take this piece of paper out. And then I'm gonna go ahead and clean it with this sponge. Take out all the Sharpie. Just go ahead and clean all that Sharpie off. So the next step that we're gonna take here is I'm gonna take a small round diamond tipped burr, and I'm gonna engrave the outlines that are closest to my light source. If you're watching this video, my light source, my actual desk lamp that I have, is at the top left. So the lines closest to that is what I'm going to use in order to go through and engrave with this small, round, spherical diamond tip burr. Basically what you're doing here is you are outlining, you're highlighting the lines that are closest to the light source, because just as if you were looking at something with the sun, the things closest to the sun are going to be lighter, and the things farther away are, you know, that are in the shade, you don't want to highlight those. So the other side of that stalk right there is not going to be highlighted. The top of that leaf will be highlighted. This round top of this leaf is going to be highlighted, so I'm going to go ahead and engrave that part as well. What you're doing is just highlighting with this bit. And you don't need to get too detailed, too technical about it. I mean, you know, especially at this part of this process, go ahead and clean your glass to take a look. This next bit is just a gray stone bit that usually comes with the Dremel itself. They're really very common. I'm gonna take it, and this is the next part of the shading. So we did the highlights, the really very bright highlights with the diamond spherical burr. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the next step of highlights down, so a little bit darker with this bit. And I'm gonna do the inside of the flower here. Very light touch to the glass. You don't need to really dig in there and get a whole bunch of meat out of the glass. Just very light touch, and go ahead and go inside the flower almost as if you're coloring, you know, as if you're using crayons. You're gonna go in. You can also see that I finally, in this step, am using water to wet the glass. That way it's smooth. It also gives it that better shading, coloring, I suppose, because it's smoother. Not like the diamond bits. I was doing that dry because I want that to stand out. I want that kind of rough. But this part, that's shading, I want it to be a little bit smooth, and eventually it's going to be a gradient from light to shade, if that makes sense. So here we're just going to go ahead and shade the area. I'm going to let you watch what it is that I'm doing. But basically it's, again, you're going to engrave with this tool the next step of highlights. So this is a round tulip. So to make it a 3D effect, you're not gonna highlight the whole thing. It would look flat. So here you see I'm highlighting and leaving some areas untouched because those are gonna be dark. That's gonna be how you get your shading. So here we've sped it up, and on this side again, you see that I'm only doing one side of the stalk, one side of the leaves, one side of the tulips, etc. I think most of you can kind of understand what it is that I'm doing now, where you go from highlight to next step down from that highlight, and then we're going to go next step down, next step down, next step down. So you can see here that rounded leaf right there, that's going to get shaded in. So is this part of the rose, of tulip, sorry. They're not roses. I specifically chose tulips because the wife likes tulips. And in this case, they're actually much easier to do. So it helps us out. But eventually we're going to put flowers in here, tulips. Which, by the way, I do know that Mother's Day is coming up. And this is going to make a great gift. I'm just putting that out there for you people that want to get a really big hug from mom. This is a very good gift. Okay, so here you see what that looked like after that gray bit. As far as wetting the glass, you can see here, I just use my finger. I wet my finger, I get some water onto the glass, not a lot, and off you go. You know, that's really all the water that you need. Some videos you will see they use a drip system. I don't really need it. I just use my fingers. Much more tactile that way. You can see what you're doing. You can feel what you're doing with your fingers, wetting it every so often and cleaning off the remaining glass. But again, I'm still using, you can see here, I am still using that same gray stone burr to go ahead and go over the areas and kind of smooth them up. Still smoothing them up. That way they're not as rough. That way they won't pick up as much highlight as the spherical diamond burr. And we're going to clean it a little bit just with our hands. The good thing about the hands cleaning is you're not leaving any scratches. You're just using your skin. So you don't need to go crazy with napkins or towels, things like that. At the very end, you're going to need some, but not right here. We're just seeing the process, the progress. Okay, so this next step, we'll use the white Arkansas stone, or Arkansas. I think that's what it is. At any rate, this is going to be the next step down. So the next step down on highlights, I'm going to go ahead and use this Arkansas stone. So this part of the tulip is, I'm going to go ahead and shade it in. And please excuse my light right here. Got in a little bit in the way of the camera. I do have a headlamp. This is what you see right here at the top of the video. It's just nice to see what you're doing. It gives it a little bit more light. The desk lamp is, honestly, it's good enough. I just add the headlamp on top just to kind of see what I'm doing a little bit better. But the headlamp is really not needed, I don't think, as long as you have a really good desk lamp and you can get it close. So as you can see, I'm just going right around, and I'm doing the very next step of the shading. So one step down. So now this is for you guys keeping track out there. We did the fine point diamond, the spherical diamond. Then we did the gray stone burr. Now we're doing the Arkansas white burr. So that's 4. That's 4 so far. After we are finished with this one, we're going to add the last one for this particular project. Some projects are going to have more, but this one, I didn't feel like we needed a whole bunch. I'm keeping it simple because, again, we're doing this for beginners, those just starting out. 4, perfectly fine. You can just get individual ones, get them online, fairly cheap. You can get going very, very economical to get going, which is 4. Those 4 that I just said out loud. Actually 5, because we're gonna have the 5th one after this one. So as you can see, it's coming along already. Again, this could be another stopping point. I mean, you know, if you're fine with that. But this one is gonna finally achieve the very last grayscale, the dark areas. Well, technically, where there is none engraved, that's the very darkest. So this is the next to last. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this. This is a smoothing Burr. It's not very fine. This came with a packet I bought on Amazon. I don't think the packet was that much. I mentioned it in one of my other videos. I want to say it was like $15. But as you can see, you go right over what you already engraved with the white Arkansas stone, and now it's making it darker. It makes it darker than the Arkansas, but obviously not as dark as just no engraving at all. So that's how you get that shading. If you wanted to use an even finer burr than this one, which again, that pack that I bought from Amazon has finer ones, then you would do the same process. You would get the finer one and you would go a shade that's darker than this, but between this and nothing at all. So that's how you start creating 3D effects. For this particular one, for this particular project, I'm gonna stop at this one to show you guys. As it is, this video is getting kind of on the long-winded side, but I wanted to show you a project from the very, very beginning, having your image, tracing it with pencil, going over the glass with Sharpie, and then going through the whole process. I felt like that was a video that was needed for the beginner. And here it is. We're stopping here with this particular project. Like I said, you can keep going. If you have more tips, more burrs, you can use that and experiment. Thanks for watching.